Okay, what if I told you that you could build a system right in your own backyard that produces an almost endless supply of high-quality protein? It sounds like something out of science fiction, right? Well, it's not. This exact idea was actually documented, get this, 2,400 years ago by a farmer named Fan Li. So let's dive into this incredible piece of lost knowledge.
Just listen to this promise. A single installation would feed your family for decades without buying feed, without permits, without depending on anyone. I mean, that's what's so radical here. This isn't just about growing a little food. It's about creating a completely self-sufficient, self-replicating ecosystem. This one quote from this ancient text lays out the blueprint for true food independence.
You know, to really get a grip on how powerful this is, let's just do a quick comparison. On one side, you've got this ancient pond system. It needs almost zero inputs, but it pumps out an incredible amount of protein. And then on the other side, you have modern cattle ranching, which is just massively resource intensive. We're talking constant feed, tons of land, and endless labor.
And this is the real kicker. This system fed more humans than pretty much any other protein system in history. It's proven itself across dynasties and empires for thousands of years. So, why is it basically unheard of in America today? That's the central mystery we're going to dig into. And as you'll see, that silence, it wasn't an accident. All right, Section 1, an accidental perfection. To really find the answers, we have to go back, way back to the beginning. Let's trace how this elegant piece of, well, biological engineering was discovered. And it didn't start with some grand design, but with just simple, careful observation. So the whole thing evolved pretty gradually. It all started way back, like 3,500 BC, with farmers just noticing fish getting trapped in floodplains. They thought, hey, why don't we just dig these a little deeper? Then, fast forward to the Shang Dynasty, we see references to fishing in the garden, so it's becoming more intentional. But the real breakthrough, the thing that changed everything, was forced by a totally bizarre political decree in the Tang Dynasty.
And this is it. This is the incredible, accidental breakthrough. You see, the Tang Emperor's family name was Li, which sounded exactly like the word for common carp, their main farmed fish. So, out of respect, or maybe superstition, he banned anyone from farming it. Suddenly, farmers are facing a crisis. They had to innovate and fast. So they started raising multiple species in the same pond and accidentally created the world's first true polyculture system. They figured out that if you have different fish living at different levels, eating different things, the whole pond becomes this stacked, self-regulating system that's way more productive than ever before.
Okay, Section 2, knowledge lost and found. So if this system was so successful, this perfected closed-loop ecosystem, why didn't it take off in America? Let's get into the story of how this incredibly valuable knowledge was basically buried when it crossed the ocean.
Well, the reasons are really a mix of culture and commerce. First off, European settlers brought what they knew. Cattle, pigs, chickens, livestock that required a lot of work. So this idea of an elegant, self-managing pond, it just seemed too simple, almost primitive to them. Then, fast forward to the 20th century, and the whole idea of a backyard pond had been twisted into a decorative status symbol, for koi fish, not a functional food source. The original knowledge was almost completely gone.
But the knowledge didn't vanish completely. In the 1960s, a group of researchers at Auburn University actually revived these ancient methods, and their findings were absolutely stunning. They found that these small, managed ponds produced, look at this, 350 pounds of protein per quarter acre. That's compared to just 200 pounds for cattle pasture. So nearly double the protein in a fraction of the space with almost no inputs. The data was just undeniable.
So, if the data was undeniable, why did this research change everything? Well, this number right here is the answer. $200 billion. That's the annual value of the industrial meat system, an industry that has absolutely zero financial incentive to promote a backyard technology that lets you, well, stop buying their products. Section 3, the 4-part living system. But here's the beautiful part. The knowledge survived. Because once you understand the biology behind it, the ecosystem pretty much builds itself. So let's break down the 4 essential, living components that make this system work so perfectly.
First up, you've got the ducks. And you need to think of them as more than just birds. They're the pond's biological managers. They're constantly stirring up nutrients from the bottom. Their waste fertilizes the water with nitrogen. They control pests. Oh, and they give you hundreds of eggs a year, all while getting up to a third of their own food right from the pond itself.
Next up are the plants. These are literally the pond's lungs and kidneys. You've got plants like cattails that filter out excess nutrients, basically acting like a natural kidney. Then you have submerged plants that are the lungs, oxygenating the water for the fish. And on top, floating plants like duckweed grow so fast they become a self-renewing, super high-protein food source for the ducks. It's a perfect closed loop.
Component number 3, the fish. This is your main harvest. And remember that idea of polyculture? This is where it shines. By stocking multiple species, say bluegill near the surface and catfish near the bottom, they aren't competing. They're occupying different niches, turning the pond's natural fertility, all that algae and insect life, into a self-replenishing source of high-quality protein for you.
And finally, we have the invisible workers, the bacteria. You can't see them, but they are the absolute engine of the entire pond. They perform the biological magic of the nitrogen cycle. They take the toxic ammonia from fish waste and convert it into nitrates, which is the perfect fertilizer for all those plants we just talked about. This is what truly closes the loop.
Okay, section 4, building your backyard oasis. So now you see how all the pieces fit together. But the big question is, how do you actually build one? Let's turn this ancient concept into a totally doable, practical guide.
And the first thing you're probably wondering is, what's this going to cost me? Well, what's really amazing is just how affordable it is. Your total startup cost for everything is probably going to land somewhere between $400 and $600. Now just stop and compare that to what you'll spend on meat and eggs at the grocery store over the next few years. The return on investment is just staggering.
And the process itself is surprisingly straightforward. It really is dirt to dinner in 7 steps. You choose a sunny spot, you dig the pond, making sure you have a shallow shelf and a deep part. You seal it, either with clay or a simple liner, fill it up. Then the key is to introduce life in stages. Let the plants establish first, then add the ducks to really get the system going. And about a month later, you introduce your fish. See, you're not just building a pond, you're literally waking up an ecosystem.
Now, a little patience is key here. The system needs time to find its balance. By the end of year 1, yeah, you'll be harvesting eggs and some fish. But by year 3, something truly magical happens. You're no longer managing a project. You're simply harvesting from a mature, living ecosystem that's humming along all on its own. Section 5, the sovereignty of a pond. And that really brings us to the ultimate point of all this. Because this isn't just about food, is it? The real harvest here is something much, much deeper. It's about independence, it's about resilience, and it's about reconnecting to the natural systems that actually support us. All right, before we wrap this up, let's just quickly tackle a few common questions. What about winter? Yep, fish can survive just fine under the ice. You just need a simple de-icer to keep a hole open for gas exchange. The ducks, they're incredibly cold-hardy. And what about legality? Well, small ponds under an acre almost never require permits, but you should always check your local regulations, especially for what fish species you're allowed to stock.
And really, this gets right to the heart of it all. You don't need these incredibly complex, fragile supply chains to be secure. What you need is water, sun, a hole in the ground, and just a little bit of patience to let biology do its incredible work. It's about working with nature, not trying to fight against it.
So I want to leave you with a question to really think about. 10 years from now, imagine the news is filled with stories about rising food prices and shortages. Now imagine you just walk out your back door to your pond. When everyone else is feeling anxious, what will you feel?
Because what you've built is something that can't be easily taxed or regulated or taken away. You haven't just built a pond, you've built independence. It's not about politics, it's about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have a resilient system that provides for you and your family. You've built real freedom.